The $1 trillion market cap club could soon be getting a new member, and it may not be one of the Magnificent Seven. That's according to our next guest, who's been following the progress of one iconic name that could soon be adding a few more zeros. Let's have market reporter Paul LaMonica reveal who it is. Paul, who is it?
Berkshire Hathaway, yes. Warren Buffett, not exactly known as the most savvy tech investor, despite a big stake in Apple, of course. But this is a company that now has a market valuation of about $860 billion, so not that far from $1 trillion.
Hey, Paul, it's Julie here. First of all, it is fantastic to see you. Secondly,
thank you.
As we look at Berkshire's portfolio, right? We know Apple's a big part of it, but what sort of has powered the latest growth leg for Berkshire Hathaway, and what could then power the next leg?
Yeah, it's very interesting, Julie. Apple, of course, is by far the biggest stock in the Berkshire portfolio. So that is helping to propel the gains of the investment side of the business. But remember, Berkshire Hathaway and Warren Buffett and the late Charlie Munger were known for stock picking. But Berkshire Hathaway is also this giant industrial conglomerate. It owns Geico, it owns the BNSF Railway, owns Dairy Queen, owns so many consumer and energy and insurance subsidiaries. The insurance side of the business is doing really well. And that's one of the reasons why operating earnings were up about 20% for the first 3 quarters of 2023. We'll be getting those fourth quarter numbers at the end of the month. And also when Berkshire Hathaway's Warren Buffett will release his annual shareholder letter that everyone will be scrutinizing to see what he says about the economy and the state of the markets.
And Paul, listen, you are a veteran financial reporter, so I'd be remiss, Paul, if I didn't ask you to get your take on the kind of market action we're seeing here today. There seemed to be this story, Paul, and we had any number of strategists who would come on and say, listen, the story is it's rare and tricky, it's a soft landing, inflation's cooling, the Fed's going to cut. You think that hot CPI print that we got today, Paul, did it kind of upend that narrative?
I don't know if it upended the narrative entirely, but I think it's certainly having investors worry about when exactly the rate cuts are going to be coming. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that some people thought a March rate cut was a certainty. That seems like an impossibility now. May doesn't even really seem as likely anymore if we keep getting numbers like this that show a pretty healthy economy with a job market that is continuing to show some steam. Wage gains aren't exactly evaporating. So I think that investors who had been banking on a rate cut sooner rather than later, now the best they can probably hope for is June. And more hot data could mean that it's further on in the summer before we get that rate cut.
And bringing it back to Berkshire, Berkshire is sort of known for weathering this kind of stuff pretty well here. We're going to get the 13F filings from Berkshire Hathaway and a lot of other funds coming up later this week. So we'll get more detail onto what the current holdings look like. You got any guesses, Paul? Or what, are we going to see the Occidental stake go up yet again coming from Berkshire Hathaway?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Oxy Petroleum stake go up a little bit. We know that Berkshire is very enamored with the energy business. Chevron is now a giant portfolio holding as well. But again, remember that Warren Buffett loves his Coca-Cola and Kraft Heinz. Those are 2 key core holdings in the portfolio. I'd expect that they'll probably stay steady there. Same thing with Apple. I'm not really sure there's much more for Berkshire to be buying there. So, keep an eye on whether or not some of those smaller positions get larger. Amazon, after all, is now, amazingly enough, a Berkshire holding. Whether or not that's more about Ted Weschler and Todd Combs' influence than Warren Buffett, that's possible. Snowflake, the software company, another tiny holding. So I'd be very curious to see whether some of these smaller, not exactly breaking the bank sort of positions go up in size as the newer guard at Berkshire exerts a little bit more control over the portfolio.
Paul, thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.